Since the time Donald Trump took office, for whatever reason, I always felt like the Democrats never really had a plan to push things through the Congress and the Senate. From Brett Kavanaugh to Amy Coney Barrett to the first impeachment of the president, it always felt like the Democrats were engaging in the fight for the optics of it, knowing well that they would lose. But they never really mounted an operation where win or lose, they could be the only winners. In politics, what you win is as important as what you lose. There is always a trade off, but you have to keep winning public opinion even when you are losing battles. But Democrats have always been a lousy hand at that battle. But for once, in the waning days of the Trump presidency, the Democrats look like they have got their act together as they gear up to impeach President Trump. And believe it or not, whether they muster enough votes in the Senate to convict Trump or not, there is only one winner in this second impeachment, and that's the Democrats. Trump could be impeached as early as Wednesday, on a charge of incitement of insurrection. House Democrats introduced an article of impeachment yesterday against President Donald Trump for inciting the mob, for high crimes and misdemeanors, as they call it. One of the authors of the article of impeachment, Representative David Sislin, noted that from Andrew Jackson to Richard Nixon, we have seen presidents abuse their power, but we had never witnessed an American president incite a violent mob on the citadel of our democracy in a desperate attempt to cling to power. What happened on January 6th is so bad that the famed Republican spin machine can only muster up a frame that tries to tag the impeachment as a move by the Democrats to further divide the nation. That's all they could find. This is the party that successfully made people believe that they are fiscal conservatives, when every time they got the presidency, they ran up the deficits while Democratic presidents reduced them. There are still people who believe that Republicans are better in managing the debt and balancing economy, but the reality is anything but that. This is the party that successfully influenced public opinion that mainstream media is fake news, but at the same time successfully peddled so much misinformation about the election that scores of people really started to believe that there was something wrong in the election. That fake news was not at all shaken despite Trump and his allies losing case after case in court after court in state after state. But despite having transformed spinning into an art form, the only defense the Republicans now have against the impeachment is please don't divide the country further. That's a lousy hand, 2024 hopefuls, a miserably lousy hand. As I noted earlier, the Democrats may never really convict President Trump in the Senate because you need 17 Republican senators to side with them. It may happen, but you never know because the number is quite big and these senators may be wary of joining the Democrats when Trump still has plenty of control over the Republican base. But here is the catch. Let me tell you a secret. If I am a Democratic Party leader, I would be secretly hoping that the Senate acquits Trump. Think of the message that will be sent to all the moderates, educated Americans, and women in particular who voted for Biden this time. A large number of those people who voted for Biden are lifelong Republicans. There is no way on earth that Biden got more than 80 million votes just by mobilizing Democratic voters across the country. He has got a ton of votes from lifelong Republicans. The Democrats will pummel every Republican senator for letting Trump go scot free after what happened on January 6th. The death toll stands at 5 lives, I believe, and more than 50 officers are injured. And how many educated Americans and women with a son or daughter in her house are ready to not believe that this was not an insurrection and this was not incited by a small group of leaders? Biden won 57% of women voters across the country. Biden was ahead by a 15-point margin over Trump. Female voters supporting Biden or turning against Trump was not a coincidence. It is the center of our country, a group that prefers some amount of decency and decorum, and they are fed up with what they saw happen in their country. Their vote against Trump and for Biden by a double digit margin was their collective response telling the politicians, we are not impressed at the way you are doing things. We do not like the direction that you are taking the country. If I am an ad maker, I will be salivating at the prospect of getting my hand on the list of senators who voted to convict Mr. Trump and those who voted to acquit him. It is one vote that I badly want to see. Vote against Trump, you lose the Trump base. And vote for Trump, you can assure yourself 100% of losing moderate, educated Republicans and female voters across the country. The end result of that vote will be immense pain for GOP candidates in battleground states. The Martha McSally type pain, the Kelly Loeffler type pain, the David Perdue type pain. With a 50-50 Senate control, everything will be on the line again in 2022. Republicans will be defending 22 states, I think, while Democrats will be defending 14 states. As usual, not all the states will be in play, but how will a vote to acquit Trump will affect the races in Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, North Carolina, and Colorado. Republicans will not have any problem in Indiana, South Carolina, Oklahoma, or Kentucky, but can they say the same in states where they will be polling within a touching distance from the Democrats? Can they stop the bleeding with female voters when Democrats will keep talking about the decision to acquit Trump after what happened on January 6th, after the needless loss of lives? That is one clip that will trigger plenty of resentment. The aftertaste of such an act will be nauseating to say the least. The Democrats obviously had one problem with this, which is if they pursued the impeachment, it would certainly delay the Biden administration's agenda, delay the confirmation hearings, and overall the country would be talking about Trump instead of turning the page and moving on. But the Dems have figured out a way to get this done. Reports indicated that the Democratic House will impeach President Trump immediately, but not send the articles to the Senate immediately, which will trigger the trial. In an interview with CNN State of the Union, James Clyburn suggested that Pelosi was considering impeaching Trump now, but not sending the article to the Senate for trial for weeks, maybe waiting until after Mr. Biden's first 100 days in office. So, see, the Senate must immediately begin a trial when it receives impeachment articles, but if it did not receive the articles, it cannot begin the trial. So, Clyburn says, let's give President elect Biden 100 days that he needs to get his agenda up and running and send the articles after that. And that plan will work out perfectly, getting everything that the Democrats would want and giving everything that the Republicans would rather not have. And for all those who are complaining that Twitter overreached by banning Trump, I would like to ask you this. So for you guys, it is okay for a bakery in Indiana to refuse a cake to a gay wedding, but it is not okay for Twitter to say no to one account? For all those senators who are calling for unity instead of impeachment, why did you vote to object the Electoral College certification? Where were your calls for unity when scores of your own party members participated on January 6th? And what about that fist pump, Mr. Josh Hawley? Where were you all hiding? Where was your call for unity when Hawley and Cruz sent fundraising emails in the name of election integrity? You did not say anything then, but you want unity now? How rich? And as Mitch McConnell would say, the Democrats are exercising the power people gave it to them. They have every right to follow the Constitution, just like you guys did, while confirming Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. You guys are more than welcome to keep complaining as much as you want. It's your right. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe.